I don't know if this is karma or not, but I have been really late with this podcast due to many things popping up and delaying me. But as I go to record this podcast, they have just released Korokoro leaks that have revealed brand new Pokemon and the new villains for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Sweet mother of mercy. Aloha, awesome people, and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon discussion podcast video. So yes, we've had brand new Pokemon Sun and Moon news revealed already as I said, I'm recording this episode. So because of how far behind I am, and because it is a leak of Korokoro, I will not be covering the brand new news that has been revealed. That will be for another podcast that isn't already on top of what will probably be another 40 or 50 minute podcast of news that I have been really slack to cover. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it because as I said, there is a lot of news to cover. So anyways, the first thing I want to cover isn't actually the new Pokemon that has been released. I actually want to cover a topic that has kind of jumped out at me since it was revealed, and that is the Z moves. Now, originally this was teased to us in a Japanese Pokemon Sun and Moon trailer where they kind of showed the trainers doing like a little dance move. I think that's how I described it when I was doing the podcast in regards to this topic. But yeah, they've now revealed it to be Z moves where, as I said, the trainers do these little things and the Pokemon then unleash this really powerful attack that involves like a really flashy move that lights up the entire screen and deals a lot of damage. So they describe it as an overwhelmingly powerful move, will be on full display, filling the entire screen. Now, I also described it as something similar to the mechanic in Pokémon Tournament, which is the Synchro moves. That's kind of how I look at it. However, unlike Mega Evolutions, I kind of feel this one isn't going to be as game-changing as I said, Mega Evolutions or any of our previous mechanics. This one's kind of a more of a, here, have another situational gimmicky move that you can enjoy. And for that reason, I say that is because the Z moves are available to every Pokemon as long as you have a Z Crystal that corresponds with a type of move that your Pokemon has. So by that I mean you can use a Dark Z Crystal that will pull off a Dark Z move as long as you had a Dark type move on that Pokemon. So you could have Knockoff, since that's like one of the more accessible moves to a lot of Pokemon. You could pull off a Dark Z move. So this is all well and truly cool and all that. I mean, we get this really awesome move that any Pokemon can use as long as they have that type of move and that type of crystal attached to that Pokemon. But then it comes with the other kind of situational stuff. Firstly, as I said, you do need to use the Z Crystal, so that's using up your item slot. And at the same time, it is only a one-time use move, and which is where this comes back into the whole idea of the situational gimmicky move. Speaking competitively, this, as I said, it may not be exactly game-changing as like Mega Evolutions is. Mega Evolutions gave us stat boost, they gave us different abilities, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff, as well as like this really awesome looking Pokemon, although I do disagree kind of with a lot of Mega Evolutions, but just coming from my personal opinion. Whereas this, I can see some really cool awesome moves being pulled off once in a competitive battle, maybe in main game maybe, but in competitive battling, I don't really see this really kicking off. I kind of see it more as a aid during the main game, but that's just about it. Which then brings us to like another thing I was thinking about with the Z moves. How are these going to work in regards to damage calculations? Now to that I mean, are they going to be physical base, or are they going to be special base, or how are they going to hit the other Pokemon? My thoughts originally on this was, depending on what move you link it to, so I did bring up Knockoff, which is a physical base move. Are they going to link it to that? So if you link it to Knockoff, will it be a physical base Z move? Or if you link it up to Dark Pulse, would it be a special base Dark move? Etc, etc. Now, the only time I've ever thought about this kind of being a similar thing to a previous thing would be the Shadow Pokemon back in Colosseum and Gale of Darkness. And this was back when the types corresponded to a particular categorization. So normal, fighting, rock, ground, bug, ghost, and there's a lot of types for me to think through, etc, etc, I'm just going to say, were physical based moves. So it didn't matter what type of move you used, as long as they were those particular types, they were always physical when hit the Pokemon on its defensive stat. Whereas if you use all the other moves like water, electric, fire, grass, dark, again, I'm going to say etc, because as I said, so many types to think about, would always hit on the special stat. Again, wouldn't matter what move you use, it would always hit specially and would go by the Pokemon special defensive stat when it goes through damage calculations. So this is going to be really interesting. I'm kind of hoping that's how it's going to work, because I would hate to be forced with a situation where a Dark Z move would be hitting, I think most Dark moves are physical based, so we'll go physical for that one. I could be wrong, but I'll have something like a Fire Z move go mostly special, because then you're kind of limiting it off again, where some Pokemon can't use a particular Z move, even it would work with Stab or something. It would still limit them quite a bit then. So as I said, I'm kind of hoping that's how they're going to work and not assign each particular Z move with a particular categorization. Because yeah, that would kind of suck in my opinion. Other than that, oh yeah, the other thing I was going to mention was like their power. Now they're saying like overwhelmingly powerful moves. Now the most powerful base type move we have in the game at this point in time is Explosion, sitting at I think 250 base power. So I'd assume these Z moves would sit around that, maybe even higher. I'm really hoping accuracy is going to be sitting at something like Aerial Ace or Shockwave or Aura Sphere status, so like never missing moves, because that would be really handy. So if you ever went up like playing official rules where the evasion clause doesn't exist, when people can spam double team and all that, you can pull off a Z move and still ignore that and still hit them for whatever move you're using. But other than that, there's nothing really else I really want to say for Z moves, other than I was more curious as to how they're going to do their classifications, and that was really about it. I mean, as I said, it is really flashy, and I do want to see how well this is implemented into the meta. But kind of looking at it and thinking competitively, I really don't see this as much of a game changer in that particular area. But main game playing through for beginners definitely would help them out quite a bit. But yeah, let's just move on to the next topic, because I think I covered Z moves to the absolute max. And this is the other one that kind of stood out to me, and that was the Island Challenge that they're introducing into Sun and Moon. Now this has kind of never been touched upon, I do believe. It's they're saying like each island is going to have a trial captain, I do believe they were calling them. And for that you had to go through and do these multiple tasks, whether it be defeating a Pokemon, collecting items, or doing quizzes. And I think there was one more I can't think of at the top of my head. But that was all it involved. And then once you did that, you went on to like a grand trial captain, I think that's what they called it. It was very brief. They gave very little information onto it, other than like during the test you would come across totem Pokemon in battles known as SOS battles. Now for this, the totem Pokemon were able to call in more wild Pokemon. I think those wild Pokemon were able to call in more Pokemon as well. So it kind of acted like a horde battle that we've seen so far in X and Y and Oris, but maybe just slightly a little bit different. So it'll be interesting to see how many Pokemon will actually be allowed on the field at once. I'd assume, given there was a bit of a lag happening in X and Y and Oris in regards to some horde battles, I'd say 5 would still be the max, but it'd still be interesting to see if they're still calling in more Pokemon once a Pokemon has been defeated when 5 Pokemon are on the field. Now, they've already given us the names of these trial captains, and each of these trial captains are known by a particular type. We have Lana, who will be a water user. We have Mallow, who will be a grass user. We have Sophoculus. I'm going to apologise if I butchered that name, but he is an electric type user. And we have Kaya Wee. Yeah, as you can see, I really struggle with my names. So they're the 4 trial captains, and he was a fire type user who was already described as having a Marowak in his team. And that kind of correlates as well with our recent Pokemon news that was given out today. And as I said, I'm not going to cover that in today's podcast because I've already got quite a bit to cover. And another thing we're revealed as well is Hala, the guy who gave you your starter type Pokemon in Sun and Moon, is a Grand Trial Captain for the Melee Island. Now, this is going to go back to one of the previous trailers that we got for Pokemon Sun and Moon. I do believe they had the Tapu Koko, I do believe that's the Pokemon's name, the totem, I think it was Fairy Electric type Pokemon came down and he was the one using it. And because he is an electric type user, Fairy Electric, it would kind of mean that Sophoculus is the trial captain for Melee Island. Now I am going somewhere with this point as well. Now, this is going to go back to probably something I discussed very early in my Pokemon Sun and Moon podcast, and that was how in the world are the gym leaders going to work in the Alola region? There is only 4 islands, which would mean there had to be 2 gyms per island. Now they're throwing this in as well, and a lot of people are doing the speculations and saying, oh, they're going to ditch the gym leaders and do the trial captains instead. That, I would say, that is absolutely preposterous. We have done the 8 gym badges and the Elite Four thing now for 20 years. It would seem pretty weird to ditch that format now for the trial captains. And heck, even in the side games, Pokemon Colosseum, and I don't think Gale of Darkness had this, but in Colosseum we only had one particular gym, and that wasn't really like, here's a badge. It was kind of like just for experience. So even those games may have briefly touched on a gym, but gyms have always existed in the game. So I still feel that these trial captains will be more of a side game thing leading up to a major thing. So I think I said that to get to legendary Pokemon, you would have to do all, you beat Halu and all that, who was the guardian of the legendary, to be able to go up and catch the Pokemon. I'd say it'd be the same thing here, except you'd have to defeat all 4 grand trial captains and then gain recognition to be allowed to go see the legendary Pokemon. I'm still going to buy that theory, and as well as having like all this going on in the side, whereas on the main game you've still got the whole challenge of going through grabbing badges in order to get to Elite Four. As I said, it would still feel weird if they got rid of a mechanic or a feature that they've been doing now for 20 years and for 6 generations. So I still stand pretty strong that we've still got the badges in Pokemon Sun and Moon. As for the whole trial captain thing, I still reckon this is pretty cool as a whole side mission, and hopefully gaining some type of, I guess, character development in a way, because it is supposed to be like the whole island challenge, kind of like a adventurous rite, Passage of Rite. And as I think I might have mentioned this as well in the previous podcast, this is kind of catching back on a lot of my podcasts, actually. Given they were quite a spiritual island, Hawaii is, I wouldn't be too surprised if the lower region was the same way. They always had these passages of right, whether it be into manhood or be into a particular position of power or something. They always have a passage of right one must do, or an initiation of some sort. This would not surprise me if this whole island challenge was some sort of initiation or passage of right to either the Elite Four or to the Legendaries, other than doing the 8 badges, which is obviously a main conquest. So hopefully that made sense, my whole point. Also, I can't remember if I actually pointed this out, but the Grand Trial Captains were also the chosen by the Garden Deities. Now, as I said, I brought up Tapu Koko, who was the Garden Deity for Mealy Island. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if you get a chance as well, once you defeat a Grand Trial Captain, to catch the Garden Deity as well. I'm kind of hoping that's how it works as well, because otherwise I have no idea how you're going to go about catching the Garden Deities. If they're going to be catchable to begin with, or if that's going to be like a post-game or something, who knows. But I'm going to leave that one for now, because again, that one's very touch and go with very little information given to us, other than that we've got to do this thing in order to get to this thing. I mean, the other thing I can go through and just say what each person's going to do, and we have Lorna, who asked the player to go defeat a powerful seagoing totem Pokemon. So as I said, this is the whole trial, going to defeat something. Then we have Mallow, who loves cooking and have quite a particular taste. She will ask the player to go find 4 items, so kind of a hide and go seek thing. We have Sophocles, who I think he will give you a quiz of some sort or something, because he's good with mechanics, having invented various machines. Actually, no, he's a trial captain who provides guidance to trial goers. Okay, it's just advice. Good going. And then we have Kiaru with the Marowak. He will ask the player to identify the difference between 2 dances. So that's kind of more along lines of quizzes. So you do these things in order to complete the task, I'd assume. So anyways, I am going to leave this topic now, because I've spoken on this topic quite a bit. Now, I'm going to quickly go over this one because we've already gone over it already in the past, because I did bring up saying that we were going to be able to ride Pokemon, and they showed us the Taurus riding through on that. Well, they've only just revealed now that we can ride Sharpedo and a Charizard at this point in time. So it's been confirmed you'll have surfing Pokemon and you'll have flying Pokemon, which I did ask, would you like to see the return of those two mechanics? And I have seen people speculate saying that these will remove the HMs. Personally, I hope they do, because they're a pain in the rear side to carry. It always means you gotta have a Pokemon, even if it be a slave Pokemon who knows Fly, and that could be another move slot that you could put another move in, or have moves like, well, I'll be honest, I don't mind Surf because that is a pretty decent move to use. It's good for horde battles. It is just a generally good movement in general, whereas Fly, it's a 2-turn move. It's kind of annoying because it's a flying type move, etc, etc, but I've never been a huge fan of Fly at all. Even when I play through, I've always tend to have a Pokemon that I've got to sack as a level 3 Pidgey or something who knows Fly, and it's really annoying because it's taking a slot up in my party. Whereas if it does take over the HMs, it means I can use an item or something, call these Pokemon forward, and then use them in the field, which is really cool. And I'm hoping the riding Pokemon remove the bicycle or something, because again, ever since they introduced the running mechanic or the roller skates mechanic in Pokemon X and Y, I have personally not used the bicycle. I mean, heck, I'm playing Generation 1 at the moment, I still don't use the bicycle because there was no select button in Generation 1, so I still don't use the bicycle even then, because it means I gotta go through the bag, select the bicycle, done. Even when I do have the bicycle on select, I still don't use it. I don't know why, I just find using the B button and running a lot easier. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how these riding Pokemon work. And one more little thing I gotta slip in about the riding Pokemon, in one of the teaser promotions for it, or pictures, I think even in the trailer they may have hinted this as well, but it looks like the Taurus is abnormal colour. It doesn't look like the shiny version, and it doesn't look like the normal version. And I'm staring at it going, is that just the saddle making it look like a different colour, or is that actually confirmed to be another version of Taurus? And I'm going to go on about that in just a little bit, since it's going to kind of go into another topic that I've got to talk about. Alright, so we've got all that out the way, so let's get on to what people want to know about, even though it's kind of old news as I'm covering it now, but at least I can give my opinions on these Pokemon. So, what we have, first up, we have Gumshoes. Gumshoes. Are you serious? It's called Gumshoes? You mean though, hold on, for those who don't know what I mean by Gumshoes or know it by a different thing known as Wellingtons, yeah, I'm referring to them. We call them Gumshoes here in Australia. They're like yellow things that you can wear in the wet and you can go through mud or all that. So yeah, they're calling this thing Gumshoes. Oh my god, are you serious? That is... Wow. Okay, this thing is the evolved form of Yongoos. Yeah, Gumshoes. I'm calling this Gumboot now or something. And yes, we're still going with the Donald Trump thing here, and it looks like an old version, like Donald Trump Sr. or something. I'm just going to leave that one alone. But yeah, Gumshoes. Are you serious, Game Freak? Out of all the things you could have called it, you called it Gumshoes. Wow. Alright, it's got the ability Stake Out or Strong Jaw. There's nothing really to say about this one other than it's an evolution, and that's about it. So let's move on to the next Pokemon, which is Mudbray, the pre-evolution of Mudscale, and it's the donkey Pokemon. So yes, we got given a horse Pokemon and a donkey Pokemon. Game Freak picking up their game here. We're giving us, I guess, Pokemon based on animals we've yet introduced into the game. So we finally have a donkey and a horse type Pokemon. Pip needs to redo his Shrek team now with an actual donkey in there now, instead of like Zeb Streaker, but I digress. So again, it's got the ability Own Tempo or Stamina. And yeah, other than that, we know absolutely nothing about that. It's a ground type Pokemon. Also, Gumshoe is still like a normal type Pokemon as well, since I did forget to mention that. So yes, that's all I can say. I can't crack any jokes. So let's move on to the next bunch of Pokemon who are actually quite interesting. And these are known as Oricoro. And again, I probably pronounced these things wrong, but I do believe there is actually, I can't remember if it's like an ocean or a sea or something, but there is actually something called the Oricoko, which is where I think these birds are getting their names from. And I think it's around Peru, which was somewhere around Hawaii, I think, if I'm getting my geology right. So it wouldn't surprise me if these are actually based on that particular thing. I can't even remember if it's a sea or a lake, but I'll probably have like something on the screen saying what I think I'm trying to think at the moment. Get on point, KrimZen. Alright, so these are known as the dancing Pokemon, and they come in 4 forms. We have the Bailey style, we have the Pom-Pom style, the Payu style, and the Sensu style. And from what I'm seeing, we have the Bailey style is the passionate Tango, I think it's the Tango? I think it's a Tango, if I get my dances right, because the Pom-Pom is obviously cheerleading styles, and the Payu style is the hula hoop from what I'm getting, where you do the not hula hoop on Wii Fit, because I'm bloody brilliant at that. Sorry, not the, it's, did I say flamenco? I think I might have said something else, but no, it refers to flamenco. Alright, the passionate flamenco. And I have no idea what the Sensu style is based on. So these are all based on dance moves. That was the point I was trying to get at. So the Bailey style is fire flying, Pom-Pom style is electric, Payu style is psychic flying, and the Sensu style is ghost flying. As I said, I can't quite work out what that last style of dance is. And their ability is Dancer. Now, Dancer is going to be a really interesting ability because this allows them to copy any dance moves used by the opponent. So if the opponent uses something like Quiver Dance, Sword Dance, Dragon Dance, or any other dance moves like them, they will be able to use those abilities as well. So they don't need to press it. As soon as they use it, they'll copy it and then use it on the spot. So you can kind of swap these in if you know like a Salamence is going to use Dragon Dance, or if Oblivion or something's going to use Quiver Dance, because usually they swap in, you know exactly what they're going to do. Quiver Dance or D-Dance up or something, and then these Pokemon could swap in and get the free boost and hopefully do something from there. If they can get a D-Dance and still outspeed a Salamence or something, that would be really cool. The question is, will they be able to take out something like a Salamence though? Maybe not the best example. But yeah, that's about all the info we have on these little guys at this point in time. So let's move on to the next Pokemon, which is Minor, the Meteor Pokemon. This is kind of like the long lost cousin of Lunatone, but it is really cool, I will give that. So this Pokemon has 2 forms as well. So it has the Minor, which is its form where it's all looking like a meteor and all that, and then we have its core Minor, which looks like a Luma from Super Mario Galaxy. So I'm assuming when it's in its Minor state, it's got really high defenses, but when it goes into its core Minor form, it will obviously be a lot quicker, it will probably have a lot more power, but less defense. And it has the ability Shields Down. Now, Shields Down is actually a pretty interesting ability. Shields Down, when I load up the info, Shields Down, a Pokemon with Shields Down starts out with a heavy shield that provides it with strong defenses, protects it from status conditions. When the Pokemon's HP drops below half, it loses the shell and changes to a lighter, offensively orientated form instead. So this is very similar to how the Zen mode works on Darmanitan, I do believe. Where first off, Darmanitan starts off as a very heavily offensive Pokemon, but when it goes into its Zen mode, which I think is in a quarter, I think, may not be a half. I haven't used Zen mode for quite some time, so don't quote me on that one. It then switches to a more defensive-oriented Pokemon, so it raises its defense and special defense, and then drops its attack and special attack by whatever. However, with Shields Down, when it's above half, it cannot be affected by any status conditions. So no toxic, no burn, no paralysis. And I think sleep might be off that list as well. So that is really interesting. We've already had Komala, I think it was, who already has no effect on any status conditions by sleep. So we're getting a lot of Pokemon who can't be affected by status conditions at this point in time, which is definitely going to be changing the meta quite a bit. So no like clef key spam or anything like that, which is kind of cool in a way. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how much of a difference this Pokemon will have on the meta. Whether people will be throwing on Focus Sashes or something to make sure it doesn't go down, because it is a rock flying type Pokemon. Now, that's got a bit of weaknesses, I do believe. It would have electric weakness it would have, I think it could be neutral to rock. I could be wrong, otherwise it's going to be super, which means it's going to have stealth rock weaknesses. I mean, going back to the Orokoro birds, they're going to have a bit of a stealth rock weakness, especially the ballet style, which is fire flying. Everyone else will be pretty much quarter health down to stealth rocks, but that's definitely going to be half. I can't remember if rock is neutral to rock or if it's weak against resistant to rock. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. But as I said, it'll be interesting to see how much defense this Pokemon has until it reaches its core minor form. But I'm definitely calling mine Luma for the sake of the core minor looks like a Luma. Alright, so let's move on to some of the last few new Pokemon that was given to us. First up we have Formatus, the sickle grass Pokemon. This thing kind of actually looks pretty cute. So this one is a baby evolution. It does have an evolution, which I'll get to in a second. And this one kind of does put my mind on Levany, but it's not quite like the green praying mantis that you see in A Bug's Life, which is the best way of giving an example of praying mantis. But this one looks more, I guess, kind of more florally. At first, I thought it was a evolution of, I can't remember. I think it was Bonsweet, I think the Pokemon was called. At first I thought it was an evolution of that Pokemon, but it turns out it's an evolution on its own. And it comes with the ability Leaf Guard, and it's grass type only. Now this Pokemon, actually no, I think it comes with the next one, which is its evolution Lurantis. Again, the Bloomsicle Pokemon, definitely based on a praying mantis, because you can tell by its name. And again, it's got the ability Leaf Guard, and it's got grass type only. So, I thought these Pokemon had another ability. So, I'm interrupting my own podcast here, but this is a little amendment to the Alorantis and the its pre-evolution. I'm not too sure if both of these Pokemon are going to get it. But the thing I was looking for was the brand new move called Solar Blade, which these two Pokemon will learn. And can I just say that this move looks bloody awesome? It's like Kamehameha and boom! Like this big solar beam that they fire up in the air and just swing at their opponents. It looks so badass, but I'm so sorry that I fiddle around with that because I could not find it on the page that I was using as a reference for this podcast. But yeah, just a little amendment, so continue enjoying the podcast if you are. Alright, let's move on to the more interesting Pokemon. So we have the Alolan forms now. So these are like, I will admit I do have to give Game Freak praise on this one because it's about time that they started looking at different forms for Pokemon, because if we go away from Pokemon for a second and look at the real world as a whole in regards to the animal kingdom, the example I'm going to use here is going to be a bear and fox, because there are so many other examples I can use here. Down in like the more temperate regions, I think it is, or like areas that are quite warm, we have our normal bears and we have our normal fox. They like orange and all that, and then you have brown bear and all that. I can't remember like their scientific names and all that. I just call them bears and foxes for now. But anyways, going off my point, if you look somewhere in the more Antarctic region, you'll have the polar bear and the Arctic fox instead. So they have like the white fur and all that to blend in with the snow, so they can hide themselves from obviously their threats. So having to look at the Alolan region, Sandshrew and Sandslash, plus the Vulpix and the Ninetales, it kind of reminds me of that, how one animal can live in one place and then be evolved in a way to be able to adapt to that region, and then have that same species live in another place that's maybe a lot colder or warmer, and then have the ability to adapt in that region as well. Same species, but I guess in a way different subspecies is the way of putting it. As I said, I don't really know, I know basic stuff about biology, but going on to more advanced stuff like this, it's hard for me to explain because I know in the back of my head how it works, but I can't put it to words. But anyways, we have the Alolan region, Sandshrew and Sandslash. Now these ones are going to be Ice and Steel, both Sandshrew and Sandslash. So yes, huge fighting type weakness there, and ice types aren't usually a good thing to go into. So in the Alolan form, they're going to have the Snow Cloak ability, Not too sure if they're going to keep the Sand Veil or the Sand Rush ability, which is what the normal Sandshrew family has, or if they're going to gain any other abilities. It would be nice to see some more, I guess, hail support abilities, because at the moment it's pretty lackluster. You have Snow Cloak, you have Ice Body, I think you have Snow Veil as well, and Snow Warning. That's about it. And even then, if you compare it to something like the Sun teams or the Rain teams or the Sand teams, Hail teams just don't stand up to them, because the Sand team has like Sand Rush to raise speed, Sun teams have Chlorophyll abilities, and then the Rain teams have Swift Swim. Going even further, the Sandstorm teams have the Sand Force ability to raise up their power. Sun team have Solar Power, and Rain teams, I don't think they've got anything to raise their power, but they have like 100% accuracy on Thunder. Sun team allows you to throw off Solar Beam, and then Hail allows you to use Blizzard. And you don't use Blizzard all that often because of its poor coverage. So, as I said, one of the things I would really like them to bring out of this is definitely more Hail support. So there's not really too much I can say about Sandshrew and Sandslash in their Alolan forms at this point in time, other than watch out for the fighting type moves if you are going to use them. They do look pretty cool, definitely in their frozen state. But let's move on to the ones I'm kind of more interested in, which is the Alolan Vulpix and the Ninetales in its Alolan form. These Pokemon look really cool. I have always liked Ninetales, especially its shiny form, and the fact that it is based on a QB, and it is also based on the Japanese mythology, which you also see as well in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The Keaton, I think it is? I know it's called the Keaton Mask in Majora's Mask. I think though in mythology it's called the Kitsune. I think I'm right there. The Kitsune is what it's actually based on. So the Kitsune is often seen in like many various forms as well. This is also going back to what I said about when you think about the animal kingdom in a whole as well. You have like your normal fox, which is what Vulpix and Ninetales are based on. And then you have your Arctic fox as well, which is what Vulpix and Ninetales in Alolan form is going to be based on. And at the same time, when you look at its actual design, it looks very ghostly as well, kind of like a mythical spirit in a way. Again, relating back to the whole Kitsune thing as well. This thing will be Ice Fairy. So again, that's definitely something to probably be afraid of. Even if it's an Ice-type Pokemon, it does have resistance to fighting types, unlike Sandshrew and Sandslash. It will have a Poison-type weakness and a huge Steel-type weakness, however, but I kind of take the Steel-type weakness over a Fighting-type weakness any day, unless there's going to be a huge boost of Steel-type moves in Sun and Moon. Then there might be a problem, because at this point in time, we have Meteor Mash, we have Flash Cannon, we have Bullet Punch, we have Meteor Mash, and I'm feeling I'm forgetting something here too for another Steel-type move. Oh, damn it, I can't think of it. But anyways, the whole point I was trying to get there was there isn't quite a lot of dominant Steel-type moves in the meta. As for Poison types, we all know they're not as dominant either. You see like Sludge Bomb and Gunk Shot and Toxic. Maybe Sludge Wave as well, but there are these Poison-type moves that's coming to my mind at this point in time. So it'll still be interesting, because since normal Ninetales gets Drought, there's probably a good chance that Alolan region Ninetales' hidden ability will be Snow Warning. I'm calling that now, Snow Warning hidden ability on Ninetales. So I'm going to leave that for now, because this next one kind of needs like me to laugh at, and that is the Alolan region Executor. My oh my, a part of me actually knew this was going to happen, whether it be something similar to Executor, like a branching evolution from Execute, but this had to happen in a way, because Executor's Japanese name is literally Coconut Palm Tree. It had to happen. So yes, we have an Alolan region Executor that is Grass Dragon, and its Alolan region ability is Frisk. That's an interesting one. So we're giving up Chlorophyll for Frisk. And at the same time, we're gaining a big Ice-type weakness again. Oh boy. But the thing I gotta point out here is, if they're giving one to Executor, why not give one to Tropius? I mean, its name is literally Tropical Brontosaurus when you break down its English name. It lives in tropical regions. It's kind of got the whole palm tree aesthetic to it with some bananas growing from its neck. Come on, Game Freak, give poor Tropius an Alolan region form and give it a reason to have Dragon Dance. I mean, heck, what? I still can't understand why Executor actually has a Dragon type move. This is probably one of the few forms I can laugh at, but then not have a liking for. This is probably one of the few that I don't like. Again, this one may take a while for me to grow on, but I think the only reason why I don't like it at this point in time is because it's predictable, even though it's hilariously funny, its whole design. I mean, heck, all I've done is grab its top half of its neck and just stretched it out to be like a really tall palm tree. And what's even funnier is, it probably was a chance that they may have designed an Executor like this back in the day. Because back on the Jungle base booster box, I do believe, they actually had an Executor looking like the Alolan region form, but the only difference was it had no feet, and I don't think it had its little tail on it too. So it's really interesting because this was right back in Pokemon Red and Green days, so very, very late 1990s, maybe 1998, I think the trading card game started. But yes, the whole concept of the Alolan region Executor existed all the way back then. So it is really interesting to see like an old design pop up out of the blue 20 years later. I think it's close to 20 years later, give or take there. So yeah, overall, that's about all the news that we're given for that I should have covered long time ago, like probably last week. And now I've got to cover like the next part of the Pokemon news very soon. Which won't take that long this time, I swear. So that's going to be it for today's podcast until the next time I cover the Korokoro leaks. My final concluding thoughts is still no sign of Mega Evolutions, so whether these X crystals are completely overriding Mega Evolutions or if Mega Evolutions will be there but won't be as a dominant feature or something, I will be pretty sad if they do remove the Mega Evolution thing, because that was pretty hyped up in Pokemon X and Y and Oris. For it to just simply disappear would be pretty heartbreaking, actually, to have it like a gen exclusive mechanic. So it would be nice to see Mega Evolutions at least come back in Pokemon Sun and Moon. At least, as I said, as a very minor thing. Whether they don't make it like some huge thing like they did in Pokemon X and Y and Oris, at least, come on, sprinkle it as like post-game stuff or something that we can collect and still use competitively. I mean, heck, I know how much people love versing Mega Kangaskhan, but even someone like me who doesn't like Mega Evolutions, I still favor Mega Houndoom every now and again in my competitive battling, or even just using it on its own in my own playthroughs and all that. I still love using Mega Houndoom. So, as I said, it will be interesting to see what they do with Mega Evolutions, if they keep it or if they're going to discard it, like it never happened. I'm still going to be interested to see what they do with that. Other than that, I have nothing else to say, I don't think. We're going on for about my normal time for podcasts, and as I said, it would have gone for longer if I covered all the news that we got today, but I'm going to leave that for a couple of days just to wait for more information to come through, just to confirm a few other things as well, and then we'll talk about that. And as I said, it won't take as long as it did for this one to go up. But anyways, guys, until next time, this is Lady KrimZen saying ciao for now, but not forever. Ciao!